behind the camera today. Welcome to another episode of the NC Beer Guys NC Beer Buzz. We're down in beautiful Trenton, North Carolina today on Industrial Park Drive at the Beer Army Brewery. This is Heath Perkins, the sales officer at Combat, and he's going to tell us what's going on down here, how they came to be, and what's happening. Thanks for having us down in Trenton.
Definitely, I appreciate you guys coming out. Definitely out in Trenton, North Carolina. It's not a very destination spot yet. Okay.
Well, one day might be.
Hopefully, that's what we're planning on.
You guys might know the Beer Army label brand from the bottle shop. It's just outside of New Bern. The Beer Army bottle shop was the existed prior to the brewery, and now they're down here brewing. And tell us about how the whole Beer Army came to exist.
Awesome. Well, the owner and founder of Beer Army, the general of Beer Army, Dustin Canistorp, he is an active duty major in the Marine Corps. He's about to retire. He's got less than 10 months left. But back in 2008, when he came back from Afghanistan, he was really trying to pursue his American dream. Didn't really know what that wanted to do, but wanted to involve beer somehow. So what he did is he got his stuff together, and he was in a poker group with a bunch of his friends, and they called themselves the Beer Army. He made a bunch of stickers and stuff just as a joke to pass around, and he's like, oh, my wife wants to settle down here in eastern North Carolina. I wanted to be out there in California where there's breweries everywhere. And they're like, quit your bitching, do something about it. He's like, what am I going to do? He's like, well, host a beer festival like you've been talking about all the time. Oh, okay. Less than 24 hours later, he came up with a business plan. And about a year later after that, he started the very first Bern Beer Festival, New Bern, North Carolina, at the Convention Center. That went over really, really well.
And it's continued annually.
Continued annually, last Saturday in June every year. And I jumped on board with him that festival, met up with him. We started doing another beer festival in Greenville, North Carolina called Jolly Skull. That's the last Saturday in January every year. Those have been doing really, really well for us, but one thing the patrons asking is, where can I get this awesome beer? And like Jeff was saying, there's nothing out there at the time. Herrica's had opened up at 2009, 2010, something like that, and you really had to go to Wilmington or had to go to Raleigh to get this craft beer that we've been putting in their faces.
Yeah.
So we decided to fill that need, and we opened up the Beer Army Outpost right outside of New Bern in James City.
And it was a bottle shop and tap tasting area?
Yes. We have 16 taps, 2 nitro, 1 cider always. We have our beers on tap always. There's 700 to 800 different kinds of beer there in the bottle shop where you can make your own 6-pack, buy individual bottles. You can order kegs there if you wanted to, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
We do charity nights the first Friday every month. And I've given lots of money back to charity, over $85,000 in the past couple of years.
That's great.
So we're definitely trying to help back to the community.
And the next step was the brewery itself?
Yes, the next step was the brewery. So what we did is we put our minds together, hired on Jeff Brungard, our master brewer. He was in the Marine Corps for a long time and decided to retire, and he was about to move out to Pennsylvania, and we're like, no, you have to stay here.
I'm going to back you up more. And before this time, who was doing the brewing? Dustin?
No, Dustin was a home brewer. He's a BJCP national judge. So is Jeff.
So when you were serving Beer Army Brew before?
We weren't. We were serving everyone else's beer at the Outpost.
Festivals were not Beer Army beer?
No.
The festivals were just being sponsored. Okay, I got you.
Beer Army proper, if you will.
Okay.
So we had none of our beer there. We do a home brewing section, so all the home brewers, local home brewers can come and display their beers as well, and really get the knowledge of craft beer around eastern North Carolina. That was our goal from day one.
I got you.
Was to spread the knowledge.
So back to the brewery coming to be.
Yes. Hired on Jeff Brungard, sent him out to Siebel Institute of Technology in Chicago, into Germany. And he went out there, interned for a while, came back and did his Micromatic draft course and started brewing for us.
And the first Beer Army beer hit the street when?
Ooh. What's the date on the very first Beer Army beer? First week in May. Of this year.
Of 2013.
Yes, 2013. Okay. Yes. That was a classic American Pilsner. It was the first beer that we brewed.
And it's going to be a flagship?
Nope, that was just a one-off.
Okay.
That was an experimental batch. Range 35 series is what we call it.
Right.
Then we did another experimental batch, and we brewed a English-style mild ale. That actually won a bronze medal at the U.S. Open this past July. July 4th, we found out the scores of our beer. So it was pretty cool.
So there are flagship beers?
There are flagship beers, yes. We have an Irish-style red called Fire in the Hole, a smoked porter called Battle of Brock's Mill, a Belgian-style blonde called Angels, and an IPA called Heroes Never Die. Those are our 4 flagships we're doing year-round, and those will continue to to be our flagship.
And they're now available, of course, back at the bottle shop outside the new room, but also here in the tap room.
Here in the tap room and statewide as well.
Okay.
We're distributed by Freedom Distribution.
Great.
And they've been doing really good for us the past couple of months.
So we're talking about growlers on tap.
Just on tap. We fill growlers here at the brewery, and hopefully with this new law, we'll be able to fill growlers at the Outpost as well.
But for now, look for it on your favorite tap.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Statewide as well.
Great. Good.
So it's been really cool.
So when we decide to come down to the brewery in Trenton and have a tasting, when can we come in? What are the opening hours down here?
Opening hours were from 4 to 10 on Friday and 2 to 10 on Saturdays. And we have people here all the time. We get random people stopping by saying, "What is this place? Come on in."
Right.
But those are our tap room hours.
That's great. And now we're going to go and talk to Jeff a little bit and get a tour of the actual brewery facility here. Thanks, Heath.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
So now we're on the other side of the bar, and we turn around and we're going to see the brewery with the head brewer, Jeff Brungard. And Jeff's going to show us around, talk about how he came to be here with Beer Army, and look at the facilities a little bit. Jeff, appreciate you having us in today.
Thanks a lot.
Great facility.
Thank you.
So you were, I guess, like most of us, home brewer, thought you might want to be a brewer one day. How did you come to be associated with the Beer Army?
Well, I had been home brewing for 17 years, and I mean, it's one of the things I always had in the back of my mind when I retired from the Marine Corps. That's something that I wanted to do. And never really thought I would get the opportunity just because of the scope of what needed to be done, and didn't really have anything or anybody that I could partner up with to do it with. And then back in 2011, when I was getting to the point where I was deciding to retire or not, Dustin approached me and said, you know, hey, I'm thinking about opening this brewery. Don't really know where it's going to be yet, but I need a brewer. And, you know, I know you make good beer. I know this is something that you wanted to do for a long time. What do you think about coming and being our head brewer? And I thought about it for a couple weeks and discussed it with my wife and made the decision that we would stay here in North Carolina rather than going back to Pennsylvania and make some beer.
And your future was set.
Pretty much.
Good. So we're down in Jones County, as we said earlier, and with the facility happens to be in the Jones County Industrial Park, and it was the shell of the economic development efforts of Jones County. And these guys were telling us off camera before that they got a real great incentive package to come down. So that kind of explains why we're in Jones County. Is that fair?
Correct. I mean, there was multiple things out there. You know, one was water quality. One was you know, the county's willingness and their aggressiveness in getting us to come to this location. The lab also, you know, it already had a lab set up for us to move in, and that's one of the things we wanted to have in the brewery was a lab to be able to manipulate and work our yeast and test for bacteria and anything like that to make sure that we're getting a consistent product. And obviously all the equipment was already here, so that was another incentive. And then when we moved into the space, you know, one of the size limitations we were looking at was something around 10,000 square feet, and here in this warehouse space, they have that as well.
Right. So let's just physically, without turning our back to the camera too much, we've got the grain coming in the door. The delivery door is through the back side.
Right. We've got the roll-up door over here, and basically all of our products come in dry
and dry
form. This is where all of our dry storage is. We get our hops. Our hops are stored in the big cooler over there, and then our yeast and everything is stored down there.
Okay.
Main ingredients.
And the bright shiny stuff behind us, you want to explain to the viewers what they see?
Basically, this area you're looking at here is all just our production area. Pretty much that whole red floor you see has all been designated as production area. So on this side over here, on the back side of the wall, you have the brew house, and then
what size are we talking about?
This is all a 10-barrel system here. Okay. So it's a 10-barrel brew house and 10-barrel fermenters. All the fermenters are lined up along here, and then you've got your glycol piping and everything that feeds that. The mill to process the dry materials is over there in the corner, and then from the mill it's augered up through that white pipe up there and is dropped in that grist hopper. From there it's dropped into the mash tun, and that's where the whole, really the brewing process and, you know, converting starches to sugars and making wort, that's where it all begins.
And you were talking about future plans. Now, already we know that this is going to change up in the not too distant future to a bigger system.
Right now we're planning on keeping the 10-barrel brew house for the system. We'll just be doing multiple batches on that. But we've got 3 30-barrel fermenters on order right now, which is 3 times the size of these fermenters.
And they will be in addition to these or replacing these?
They will be in addition to these.
Okay.
That'll allow us to increase our production Obviously, right now, our main limitation is the amount of fermentation space we have, and we can only produce so much. So by getting the additional fermenters with the additional space, you know, that'll allow us to brew more and put more production out.
And your cold storage is in the back, you said?
Yes, the big cooler right here, it's 20 feet by 20 feet square.
That had to be built in afterwards, I guess. That wasn't here.
Correct. Right. That was put in here. I mean, when we moved in, this was a completely empty warehouse space. All it was the white insulation on the walls.
So you're talking about all the white space that was here, and it was just kind of an empty shell in some senses.
Correct.
But I see this nice drainage floor and all the actual equipment on the floor. The floor obviously had to be added.
Correct.
And what did that entail? That was for drainage purposes?
Drainage plus, you know, when you're brewing, everything is wet constantly. So we need to have proper drainage. By building this floor in here and putting the high walls on the outside, pretty much everything liquid gets contained on the inside of that floor. It's a sloping floor, and it's got four floor drains all the way down the whole length of the floor.
For instance, Dave, I guess you got on camera, we're watching this bubble over here where the pressurized. So, you know, it's producing liquid, it's producing a mess, but it's somewhat contained at least. It can be washed down with like a water hose and all washed to the middle.
That's fermentation. And the other part of this floor is that what is coming out of that bucket is partially acidic, because beer is acidic. So this floor actually has a polyurethane coating on top of a 1/4 inch thick that is supposed to resist any kind of chemicals, acids, caustics that we use to clean with. It resists everything, and it's got a very long lifespan.
Okay.
So that was the other purpose for this floor.
Great. So before we close, I've heard about beer school down here. Let's talk about beer school for Beer Army.
Well, basically, when Beer Army when we first started deciding to do this brewery, we needed to raise money. We did a campaign on Indiegogo, and one of the perks, if you donated a certain amount of money, one of the perks you got was to participate in what's called Brew School. Which down here, when you come in to do brew school, you get to help us develop a recipe. You get to come in and help us brew the recipe, and then it gets distributed, you know, all across North Carolina under the X31 34th series of beers. The last one we did, the first one to come off the line, is called Coastal Guardian, which is a cream ale, and it came out pretty nice. And we've got 2 more beers that are in the pipeline right now. One is a brown ale, and I think the next one after that is a porter.
Great, and that's a real incentive to participate and also to get the community involved in what you're doing here.
Correct.
That's great. We appreciate so much you having time for us today and showing us around.
No problem, Glenn.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Good visit to Trenton.
Thank you.
Until next time, remember, this is the NC Beer Guys for another episode of the NC Beer Buzz. Remember, drink local and keep your beer dollars North Carolina.